Türkiye STUNS USA.
But why did this 3-2 thriller change nothing? Intro. What if I told you one of the most entertaining matches of the FIFA World Cup 2026 ended with the losing team celebrating, while the winning team packed its bags?
Sounds impossible.
But that's exactly what happened in Los Angeles. In front of nearly 70,000 fans, Türkiye defeated the United States 3-2 in a breathtaking 5-goal thriller. There were early goals, brilliant attacking football, a stunning comeback, and a dramatic stoppage-time winner. Yet when the final whistle blew, it wasn't Türkiye celebrating qualification. Instead, it was the United States that walked away with the bigger prize. How can a team lose and still finish happier than the winners? Today we're breaking down one of the strangest stories of FIFA World Cup 2026. A match full of drama, a tactical chess battle, young stars announcing themselves, and a reminder that in football, sometimes 90 minutes don't tell the whole story. Let's dive in. A match that looked meaningless. Before kickoff, many fans believed this game wouldn't matter. The United States had already secured qualification after impressive victories over Paraguay and Australia. Mauricio Pochettino's side had done the hard work early. For the first time in decades, the Americans entered their final group match without pressure. Türkiye's situation was completely different. Despite arriving with one of Europe's most talented young squads, they had already been eliminated after disappointing results in their first 2 matches. For Vincenzo Montella's men, qualification was gone. Only pride remained. But football has a funny habit. Sometimes the matches with nothing at stake become the most entertaining of all. And that's exactly what happened. Pochettino makes a huge gamble. Knowing qualification was already secured, Mauricio Pochettino made one of the boldest decisions of the tournament. He rotated almost his entire starting lineup. Several key players were rested. Others carrying yellow cards were protected. Christian Pulisic began on the bench after recovering from injury. The message was clear. The round of 32 mattered far more than this final group match. It was a calculated risk. Fresh legs for the knockout rounds, or a dangerous invitation for Türkiye to attack. Only 90 minutes would provide the answer. The perfect start for America. If anyone questioned Pochettino's decision, the opening minutes seemed to justify it. The United States came flying out of the blocks. Just minutes into the game, they won a corner. Sebastian Berhalter delivered an excellent cross. Defender Auston Trusty rose above everyone. Header. Goal. Only 3 minutes had been played. The stadium erupted. America led 1-0. It was Trusty's first international goal. Even more impressive, it became one of the fastest goals ever scored by the United States in World Cup history. Everything looked under control. The Americans appeared ready to complete a perfect group stage. Enter Arda Güler. But great players don't panic. They respond. And Türkiye had one of Europe's brightest young stars. Arda Güler, the Real Madrid midfielder, had carried enormous expectations into the tournament. Although Türkiye had already been eliminated, Güler refused to let his World Cup end quietly. Only 7 minutes after conceding, he struck. Receiving the ball inside the penalty area, Güler stayed calm under pressure. One quick touch. One composed finish. Suddenly the score was 1-1. The momentum completely changed. Türkiye's confidence returned instantly. The American defense suddenly looked uncertain. And Güler wasn't finished yet. Türkiye takes control. What happened next surprised almost everyone. Instead of defending for a draw, Türkiye attacked with confidence. Their midfield controlled possession. Their passing became quicker. The United States struggled to deal with the movement between the lines. Kenan Yıldız constantly stretched the defense. Orkun Kakko dictated the tempo. And Arda Güler looked like the best player on the pitch. The pressure kept building. Eventually it paid off. A dangerous move down the flank ended with Barry's Alper Yılmaz delivering the perfect ball.
Türkiye finished clinical.
In just over 30 minutes, the Americans had gone from leading comfortably to trailing 2-1. What looked like an easy evening had suddenly become a serious test. America's defensive problems return. For much of the first half, one issue became impossible to ignore. The United States looked vulnerable whenever Türkiye attacked at speed. Their rotated back line lacked chemistry. Simple defensive mistakes invited pressure. The spacing between midfield and defense became too large. Türkiye exploited those gaps brilliantly. It wasn't simply about individual mistakes. It was about organization, communication, and rhythm, things that are difficult to maintain when so many changes are made at once. Pochettino knew this risk existed. The question now was whether resting his stars would still prove worthwhile. Halftime questions. As the players walked toward the dressing rooms, the scoreline showed Türkiye leading, but the bigger picture remained fascinating. America were still group winners regardless of the result. Türkiye were still eliminated. Yet neither side played like the match was meaningless. Türkiye wanted to prove they belonged among football's elite. The United States wanted to show their squad depth before the knockout stage. Both teams had something to fight for, just different objectives. And with 45 minutes remaining, the biggest drama was still to come. Would America rescue the match? Could Türkiye finally end their tournament with a memorable victory? Or would another twist completely change the story? The United States struggled to deal with the movement between the lines. Kenan Yıldız constantly stretched the defense. Orkun Kakko dictated the tempo. And Arda Güler looked like the best player on the pitch. The pressure kept building. Eventually, it paid off. A dangerous move down the flank ended with Barış Alper Yılmaz delivering the perfect ball.
Türkiye finished clinical.
In just over 30 minutes, the second half would deliver answers nobody expected. The second half begins. If the first 45 minutes belonged to Türkiye, the second half belonged to pure football drama. Mauricio Pochettino knew his team couldn't afford to enter the knockout rounds carrying defensive doubts. Yes, the United States had already qualified. Yes, they had won the group. But confidence matters. Momentum matters. And most importantly, championship teams never like losing. As the players returned to the pitch, the tempo immediately increased. The United States pushed their defensive line higher. The midfield pressed more aggressively. Türkiye, however, refused to retreat. Instead of protecting their lead, they continued attacking whenever space appeared. The match became completely open. Every possession looked dangerous. Every counterattack had the potential to produce another goal. For the neutral fan, it was exactly the kind of football the World Cup was made for. Berhalter ignites the comeback. Just when it seemed Türkiye had complete control, the United States struck back. The attack started with quick passing through midfield. The ball found Sebastian Berhalter, who had already played a crucial role earlier in the match. Instead of rushing his finish, he stayed composed. One touch. A perfectly placed shot.
Goal.
2-2. The stadium erupted once again. American players sprinted toward the corner flag.
Türkiye looked stunned.
After working so hard to build their advantage, they suddenly found themselves level again. For Berhalter, it was a memorable performance, an assist, a goal, and proof that the next generation of American football continues to grow stronger. NTON football. The final 30 minutes became one of the most entertaining periods of the tournament. Neither manager settled for a draw. Both teams attacked with courage. The United States looked dangerous from set pieces. Türkiye relied on quick passing and rapid transitions. Goalkeepers were forced into difficult saves. Defenders threw themselves into last-ditch tackles. Every attack increased the tension inside the stadium. Commentators described it as one of the best spectacles of the group stage. Even though the result would not change the qualification picture, the intensity felt like a knockout match. Sometimes football is about more than points. Sometimes it's about pride. And both teams had plenty of it. The moment that decided everything. As the clock moved into stoppage time, many expected the game to finish 2-2. A fair result. An entertaining draw. Then everything changed. Türkiye launched one final attack. The American defense failed to clear the danger. The ball bounced loose inside the penalty area. Ayhan reacted first. Before anyone else could recover, he fired the ball into the net.
Türkiye 3.
United States 2. The Turkish bench exploded with emotion. Players rushed onto the field. Supporters celebrated wildly. After two frustrating defeats, Türkiye had finally earned a World Cup victory. It may not have been enough to continue their journey, but it was a victory that restored pride and showed the quality this young team possesses. A strange World Cup story. Normally, winning means celebration. Losing means disappointment. But this match reminded us that football is rarely so simple. Despite the defeat, the United States still finished at the top of Group D. Their earlier victories had already secured qualification. Pochettino's decision to rotate his squad suddenly made perfect sense. His key players remained fresh. No major injuries occurred. Several squad players gained valuable World Cup experience. And the team's biggest objective, reaching the knockout rounds, had already been achieved. For Türkiye, the victory was bittersweet. 3 points arrived too late. Earlier setbacks had already ended their qualification hopes. Yet their performance left supporters with hope for the future. Young stars like Arda Güler demonstrated exactly why so many believe Türkiye has one of Europe's brightest footballing generations. The standout performers. Several players left a lasting impression. Arda Güler was outstanding. His vision, his composure, his ability to control the rhythm of the game. He looked every bit like one of football's future superstars. Sebastian Berhalter enjoyed perhaps his finest international performance, contributing both a goal and an assist while constantly driving the American midfield forward. Auston Trusty announced himself with an early goal and showed determination throughout the match despite the defensive difficulties. And Ayhan became the hero of the evening with the dramatic winning goal that ensured Türkiye left the tournament with their heads held high. These individual moments are what make the World Cup unforgettable. What this means for the United States. Although defeat is never ideal, the bigger picture remains extremely positive for the United States. Winning Group D means a potentially more favorable route through the knockout stage. Their experienced players received valuable rest. Their squad depth was tested under pressure. And now, the real tournament begins. Every mistake from this point forward could end their World Cup dream. Pochettino will undoubtedly study this match carefully. The defensive organization needs improvement. Concentration during transitions must become sharper. Because the round of 32 offers no second chances. A message from Türkiye. For Türkiye, this tournament ends with mixed emotions. There will be disappointment about the early elimination, questions about the performances in the first 2 matches, and frustration over what might have been. But there is also optimism. This young squad possesses technical quality, creativity, energy, and fearless attacking football. If this generation continues to develop, their next major tournament could produce a very different outcome. Sometimes the final result doesn't tell the entire story, and Türkiye's future may be brighter than their World Cup exit suggests. Conclusion. Football has always been full of surprises. A team can lose and still celebrate. A team can win and still go home. That's exactly what happened in Los Angeles. Türkiye produced one of their finest performances of the tournament. The United States accepted defeat knowing their real mission was still alive. In the end, both teams walked away with something important.
Türkiye regayinet piriydi.
America preserved its World Cup dream. And for fans around the world, we witnessed another unforgettable chapter in FIFA World Cup 2026. As the knockout stage approaches, the pressure will increase. The mistakes will become more costly. And only one nation will eventually lift football's greatest trophy. The question is, who will still be standing when the final whistle blows? If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more World Cup stories, global football analysis, and international sports documentaries. Who do you think has the best chance of winning the FIFA World Cup 2026? Share your prediction in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.